And now for the very last evaluation for this entire 2018 orchestration challenge. And I have had so much fun. I didn't think that it was going to be this much fun, especially after fighting off that cold for like 3 weeks. And then, coming to the evaluations fairly late in the game, I'd wanted to evaluate things as I'd actually wanted to evaluate each score as it came in, like right away, like the minute I saw it, and then start releasing the evaluations videos before the end of the challenge, like I did last year. But all the same, it was great just doing everything together, really focused. I might actually do that next time. I don't know. We'll just have to see. The next piece I'm going to evaluate is like another minute long, and since it's a very fast piece, there are like extra staves involved. So I got to make sure that I don't pile things too high on my plate for next year. However, I really enjoyed it. I actually just took a very quick calculation of all of the time that I've spent evaluating both these entries and turning my own score into an orchestration lesson. And it's like about 19 hours of content where that was created over the past 6 weeks or so, not including the planets, which the planets is going to continue. Nobody have any fear about that. It's that is simmering along on the back of the stove, just continuing on, and there will be regular uploads all the way through till the end of this year on Patreon, and then further on YouTube. So let's get to Matthias's score. Matthias, you have been the most patient because you submitted this and you've waited the longest for your evaluation since the deadline. So yeah, this is interesting. It's a combination of more intimate scoring, like we have seen in other, in the past few evaluations, and also, some surges toward larger scoring, especially on the next page. So let's see how all of this works, how all of this is going to hang together. Starting from the very beginning, just, sort of this tromping between pizzicato E and timpani D, and then we've got col legno here, E sort of kind of slapping along. This is obviously col legno battuto, but maybe like, say col leg bat. Do you know what I mean? Just really making sure that it's clear. Yeah, because like there are other ways of doing col legno. You could actually play a tune col legno, especially with cellos. All right. But anyways, just kind of chugging along here, and you find that this sort of tapping is not very strong. If you want this to be heard, you're going to have to mark it forte, right? There are some missing dynamics at entrances, and there are also missing a lot of opportunities to tell us how many players on a part. I like the little alternating, subito forte. Now look, once you've told us subito forte, you don't need to say subito anymore. We get it, right? So the first one is fine, and then just say forte, forte, and so on, right? And then you are clear. And then to combine that with snap pizzicato, that's great, should be marked forte as well, right? So this could all be marked forte except for, like, maybe you could do it this way. Forte on col legno, piano on double bass, and then just mark these forte and go back and forth, like, because you're going back and forth between dynamic levels, correct? Right, so you do need to go drop back down to piano and so on. I think at piano you can balance the timpani with with a double bass. I want to start saying pauken and contrabass. I want to start violine. I want to start using the German terms. So anyhow, we go to this. Now you have to tell us whether you want this to be one solo, right, or a two, right? So I think it works really great as like a solo because like the accompaniment is so gentle. It's so reserved here. And this is neat too. This kind of boom, 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 boom. And then going back to soft here, correct? Or do you want this to be loud? I think you should mark it loud again if you intend it to be loud or soft. So anyhow, nice statement for just a bassoon solo. I like the register that it's in rather than being getting towards the middle register of the bassoon, just really kind of down there, kind of digging in the dirt, right? And that's nice. Now you show like a bum 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 bum. Why not have everybody get loud, right? Did you bring enough candy for everybody to class? It's the same exact thing. Look, why should these elements get loud and these elements not get loud, right? You really do need to think this over a little bit more, right? Okay, so and then pizzicato. To take away any confusion here, I think you should put these pizzicato marks like right over where it starts, right? Because I was just looking at it and I was getting confused that col legno was continuing to be a thing, right? So just put it right over the beginning of the entrance, and then it's just much easier to read for us score readers. Okay, and nice little variation of pizzicato, col legno, snap pizz, and arco, and so on. It pretty much works, I would say. Not too out of balance. Now, our next statement is bass clarinet and standard B-flat clarinet. Now, here you've got an E-flat clarinet, but you don't really, within the scope of this particular challenge, like what you're able to submit, you didn't end up using the E-flat clarinet in a way that could have, made any difference between it being a B-flat instrument or an E-flat instrument, right? So my feeling is that you might as well just have had two B-flats, and it would save some vertical space. So we have this unison here. Works really, really great. I love it. And then you come in here with the trombone, muted trombone, doubling the bass clarinet when things get a little bit lower, right? But obviously intended to be a kind of unison all the way through. I love the cor anglais coming in right over the top of that. I think that this is really fun scoring. Now, there is nothing but just violas going bum 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 bum. I think you need a little bit more going on there, especially after such a massive, you just like, dun 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 dun, and all you've got is dun 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 dun. Pizzicato, right? So it's just really is not enough. Like, what if you had, say, like bass clarinet in there, pianissimo staccato, right? I think that would work. That would just add just enough force there to keep things under control. With this subito piano, yeah, you know that you in the middle of the text strand you can change things to an engraved dynamic mark, right? So you don't need to go subito and then P in just text font. All right, then dun, 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 and then really soft here, and bum 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 bum. Right? It's so subtle, right? And I can see, in this case, the mezzo piano is being used just as a slight push, right? Over all of these other dynamics. But look, I think that you need to find a standard dynamic here. You want this to be really soft and that to be pianissimo. I think they could both be pianissimo. Maybe this mixes better in terms of your mock-up, but still, just try to keep the dynamics as simple as possible. Okay, and you might well have just said piano here too. Not sure, but mezzo piano on the way to something else. I'll give you. I know I'm being really strict about mezzo dynamics, but I'm seeing them crop up so many times that I am starting to get a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction. Maybe that's wrong, but just like trying to avoid them couldn't hurt anything. That's my feeling, and not being judicious about them could hurt things, right? It could give you the wrong idea about where you need to score from. Okay? So anyways, but in this case, I think it's totally fine. I'm just trying to get things to be a little bit more even across the board in terms of dynamics. And now, once again, my favorite part. Dun 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 dun. I kind of need to know how many oboes here. Is this going to be A2 oboes over a cor anglais? I mean, it'll still work. I love the addition of the celesta right in here. I think that is such a cool idea, and you don't overdo it. This, however, is going to be really loud. This xylophone just really, and it could be pushed up in the mix artificially, so that makes it even worse. So you've got to balance this dynamically across the board. So I'd say maybe, I think that you've got, so this mezzo forte marking here is like, yes, you've got forte for the xylophone. I think that's a little too much. Now, the other thing that's really completely unnecessary are the slurs, right? You don't really need to add that kind of marking too much to xylophone, because there's you can add a slur to an overall slur, kind of defining what is a overall passage or phrase or whatever else, right? But it just kind of doesn't make sense to do these little pairs of slurs. It doesn't really add anything to the music. Okay, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. All right, so bing, 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 dun, 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 dun. And nice little bass clarinet and bassoon thing happening there with the horns and everything. A little bit of heavy brass in the middle. Yeah, so I think kind of, this is not going to work in terms of mezzo forte pizzicato, right? This should be loud. The harps should be fortissimo. And they could be put up an octave so that they're audible. And then these parts can be forte, like all the winds can be forte. And I would say for the trumpet, you can say mezzo forte, really. Like, unless this is really a solo, right? But it doesn't really seem that way. It's just a duo part along with the horns, right? So you should be trying to play this a little softer, all right? So I would say bring it back to mezzo forte. So mezzo forte brass, forte winds and strings, and like harp. If you really are going to use that, everything needs to be up farther, like including this part here. This all needs to be higher, or else it just gets swallowed by everything else. If you have pizzicato in the strings and the harps are playing over the same exact pitches, then the pizzicato of the strings just swallows up those same sounds. Okay, but not a bad idea. So it should really needs to be a little bit more consistently marked as to what is and isn't A2, right? Because just kind of no way of knowing unless you put it in. Okay, and look, this is another way of solving that whole problem of unison on the single note, and then and then seconds, unison, and so on and so forth. So this is another way to do it. It's messier, isn't it? Right? I kind of like Craig's solution. That is something I also do. I keep saying, hey, that's Craig's way of doing it. But it's just the first score that I saw it in, so that's why I'm kind of going back to Craig there. These are some strange. Those are some strange beams. All right, just fixing that. Okay, so we get into the kind of part. And I would say flautando, maybe don't use it in this way, right? So you've got all of this doubling by the winds for all this stuff, and it's very smooth, very silky kind of. You're just going to get a very very beautiful mixture that is going to have a certain type of sound. If you have your strings go flautando here, then basically it's like erasing them out of the picture and letting the winds dominate, right? It's just I don't feel that is a really great way to score this. I would say save flautando for an effect where the strings can really be like part of their own section of the texture, right? Where what they do is not being moderated by the influence of other instruments, unless the other instruments are literally contributing to the same thing. Like if you were to play high flautando notes with actual flutes, maybe the flutes playing with harmonics, right? Then I think that you would get like that more kind of moonbeam kind of look to it. There's this kind of sort of ghostly, pale, beautiful, and yet and yet resonant kind of sound. And that is what flautando is, right? It is. I think that this is just throwing the effect away, right? And then this little roll underneath there, that's really cool. I like that a lot. Well, Matthias, you submitted a partial entry for the level that you are contributing at. You could have scored the entire thing, but perhaps you didn't have time to, and maybe a lot of the things that I'm referring to, the a certain lack of telling us which instrument is playing how many and so on, and some of the problems with the dynamic markings. Maybe a lot of that is just that you're in a big rush, and I respect that. That's fine if you didn't have a lot of time to put into this. You've been such a great contributor, to like giving us really great material for the MOOC and being a supporter here since for the past couple of years. And I just really I think that your orchestration skills are definitely I can see some of the experimentation, some of that interest coming through that of that I saw in the MOOC scores. And yeah, it's really great to have your contribution, and I think that you might really enjoy the next challenge that's going to come up in 2019, which I'm got to keep that a secret. Okay, I think you guys are going to really enjoy it, though. It might seem a little out of left field, and it might be a piece of music that you have not heard, not that familiar with. It's not really in the center of the repertoire, but it is by a composer that a lot of people love, and so I think it's going to be really great. And I can't wait to find an extra day here and there that I can just sit down and orchestrate it myself. So thank you for your contribution, and I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the website subscribers, who have been such an important part of the community for the past few years, and and for the Patreon supporters who, it's their support that has made this challenge possible, and the lectures that I put out there on Stravinsky and Holst's planets, and all of the videos like orchestration questions and all the little features and everything else that I do, the book club when I get a chance to make those videos. All that is really thanks to the ongoing support of our Patreon crowd. So, I just really feel blessed here. I just feel like the luckiest teacher in the world to do something that interests me so much, and to see people grow and develop and have ideas that I never would have thought of, and to be able to help out and evaluate and, have the smallest part in moving things forward for the people who are part of this community. And, if you did not contribute a score, don't worry about that. If you're sitting there watching this video and you enjoyed the evaluations. They gave you some great ideas about your own orchestration, or it maybe helped to answer some questions for you that you had about your own scoring. Then that's great. You are an equally valid member, of this community. All the people out there who are viewing, and I just feel just really, really great at the end of this particular challenge. So thanks one and all. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you, all the different levels of support. Everybody who entered into the challenge. Everybody who's supporting the channel. Everybody who's a member of the community. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. And now I'm going to go give my throat a rest after all these evaluations. All right, and I will see you soon out there on Facebook and in Patreon.